I'll call the meeting, the May 23rd, Jamaica Selectboard meeting. All the players are here. The first thing on the agenda is to call for any additions to the agenda. Does anybody have any other additions that they want to put on the agenda? No. Good. We approved the minutes of the May 9th Select Board meeting and the May 10th informational meeting. So let's do the Select Board meeting on May 9th first. They've been sent out to everyone. Did everybody have time to review them? Any, I have one tiny little thing. I apologize. One tiny thing. If you go to the second to the last paragraph.
Which one?
On May 9th, first page, under public concerns. It says, the second line, executive session can't be requested by the public advised that, I think there should. Oh, and I'm correcting your grammar. Perhaps a semicolon?
And, or an, yeah, something.
Okay, just something in there, because I read it and I stopped and I had to review it. Otherwise,
I have an addition that was omitted. In other business, I spoke and I've written it out for
okay.
report.
Thank you.
And it is, Judith reported that people were generally accepting of the recent change in the recycling of plastics from 1 through 7, recyclables back to 1 and 2. She also reported that she is exploring the use of prepaid paper punch cards, which can be used when depositing, sorry, it should be depositing, you'll see that. I have deposing. Electronics, refrigeration, and construction and household products. These cards would provide greater dollar denominations than what is available with tokens. Okay, so you see that word that's wrong? So, and that should go in other business.
Okay.
I'll make a motion that we accept.
Oh, I have one more little tiny
Oh,
thing.
okay.
In fact, you're the one I want to ask you about this. Page 2, paragraph 2. Did you or I give the fire department report?
You did.
I thought so. We were discussing that earlier and we couldn't remember. So let's change Lexa to Paul Fritz.
Yeah.
Because you did make some comments about, kind of a recruiting comment about how we can use some extra people.
That was it.
Yeah. So we have,
Second motion, it's minutes as corrected.
good. Any other discussion? Hearing none? Moving right along. That will pass. Moving now to
Did you
the,
say aye?
oh, you want to say aye?
Yeah.
Aye. All in favor say aye. Any opposed? Nay? Hearing none, it passed. Okay. May 10th minutes. This is the Highway Garage Bond Revote Informational Meeting on the 10th of May. The minutes were circulated for review and approval. Has anyone any corrections, additions, or deletions to those minutes? Hearing none? Are we ready to remove?
Make a motion that we accept the May 10th minutes.
I'll second it.
Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Nay? Hearing none, minutes are accepted as written. Number 3 on the agenda is the approval of timesheets for the town offices, listed highways and transfer stations, and the select board orders. We will do that at the end of the session. I'm changing this a little bit at the request of the public, that we move the time for public concerns in front of the business, and we have at least one public that has a concern that we would like to share with us.
As I said, it's not a concern.
Mostly a request.
Yeah.
Okay.
And the request is,
Excuse me, could you state your name for, she knows, but the record?
I'm David Mink,
Thank you.
a resident of Jamaica. So my request is that the town of Jamaica Selectboard create a position to, for a maintenance person to take care of the town hall on a kind of, I don't know, ongoing basis, not, I don't know how it would be structured or what have you, but someone, I mean, I had this conversation with Alexa and Judy last week, that no one really ever goes into town hall unless it's going to be used. And I would think it would be beneficial to the town to have someone who was available and willing to fill that position, to take care, watch over, take care of, whatever you want to phrase it, the Jamaica Town Hall.
I think that's a good idea, but right now, we'll have to take it under advisement to see what it would entail, what you know, somebody would want to do.
Yeah.
You're interested in it.
Didn't we have that position once, years ago?
It was, but it really didn't work, it didn't work out.
Yeah.
So we need somebody that would really be committed to check it once a week, and especially in the winter time for the fuel and stuff like that. Usually it's not on, but sometimes it can be left on. And then the back needs to be cleaned up and stuff like that. So we'd have to look and see where our, might not be able to do it right now, but maybe in the next budget season,
Okay.
something like that. But I think it's something we should further discuss, and see what we can come up with, maybe some duties, and see what we can offer this person and take it from there.
I think it's a good idea if you look at it.
Do we have the old job description that we have for that?
I don't know, I haven't checked it. We might, I can check it tomorrow.
I think we did have one, and then we
Right.
tweaked it a little.
Thank you. I was thinking, my memory was that we couldn't find anybody to take the job after the last gentleman left. So we had a little difficulty with
I know one of the things, if I remember correctly, David was mentioning kind of like a manager of the town hall.
Yeah, I mean, it could be incorporated
Yeah,
to have multiple functions.
yeah, but I think that's probably a little bit more than, I guess that would be under exploration.
yeah, we
Right.
Yeah.
So I think we ought to
All
look
right.
into this further, check on our, not policy, but what we had the other
Yeah,
person.
check for the other.
And see what we have there, and
Sure.
sit down with David maybe and see what we can come up with.
Are you interested, Dave?
Yes, I
Who's
am.
interested?
All right, sounds like a plan. I think it's a good idea. I think we ran into an issue the last time, we just couldn't find, it was a complicated little piece of business, and we want to make sure we're fair to everybody.
Sure, yeah.
Sure.
So you don't mind us getting back to you?
No, not at all. I just wanted to get the ball rolling, as they say.
Ball is now
Put it
rolling.
in front of
Yeah.
everybody's,
No, it's a good idea, thank you for that.
everybody's aware of it. But, you know, the building needs to be attended to on a fairly regular basis, I believe.
Yeah. Well, now that we actually have water and we're using it more often, it's probably gonna need to be attended to more. Yeah, makes sense. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you,
You're
David.
welcome.
Any other discussion on his suggestions? Very good, thank you very much. And while we're in public concerns, we're gonna hit and run. Okay, I understand.
Dinner.
Dinner, yeah. Any other public concerns since we've opened that topic up?
Yeah, I have a public concern. Julie Lowe. I'm, got a couple of questions, but first of all, my road was so kindly just neglected and has been neglected and avoided recently since the petition in the garage situation.
I'm sorry, what was the word, neglect?
Our road, Knight Road,
Which road is it? Knight Road?
Yeah.
South of South Hill?
yeah, South Hill, Maury Road, every road off of there got graded and handled, but mine was avoided, so just curious if we can maybe
I
take
will,
care of that.
I will mention that to Keith.
I figure they're well aware. Second concern is with the vote, the way things happened with the town garage. I'm just curious what your position is in terms of why you think it's okay to move forward, knowing the information that you have and the concern from the citizens here. There's a clear divide in this town about this garage. And you had 150 votes at the first vote for yes, with lack of information, and that was cut in half more than half. And the no votes were higher, as you know. I'd just like to know why this board feels this is worthy of moving forward.
We follow the law. There's a presumption under the law, as near as we can understand it, that when you do the vote for a revote, that a number of people have already made their statements, think it's done. And therefore they don't come out for the second vote. That's why we understand, and I could be wrong because I'm not in the legal system, but our understanding is that's why they set the bar at 2/3 of the previous yes vote. So that even if people didn't show up because they thought it was done, that to undo it required that number. And we follow the law.
Well,
I think also that if you look at the law makes it easy for a reconsideration vote. But it makes it a little bit more difficult to actually succeed in the reconsideration vote. I think that was intended by the legislature. Because I think the reason for that is that typically these kind of votes are held when there's a larger turnout because of some other event. In this case, it was the primaries for the elections. Whereas these reconsideration votes tend to be on their own, stand on their own, with a much lower turnout. So I think it was the intent of the legislature to make it easy for reconsideration, but set the bar a little higher for success.
although I appreciate your law analysis after speaking with your attorney and figuring everything out, which again costs the townspeople more money. That's okay, you seem to be turning to the attorney a lot. But my question is, why does this board feel that it is okay to move forward with this?
Majority of the voters on the 1st of March voted in favor of it.
But they didn't the second time around when they had more knowledge.
On the first ballot, the majority.
I'm asking you why you feel as a board it's imperative to move forward on this when you know there's a great divide. And you know there were more no votes than yes votes.
All right, we're moving forward with it because we need it. We desperately need
We
this
as in
structure.
you five think
No,
we
we
need
as
it?
in the town of Jamaica. And when the case was made for the town of Jamaica, when the vote was held, the
When the vote
majority,
was held, there was no information
we put in,
present for anybody to know.
prior to the vote being held, didn't we have a meeting?
You had a meeting with a lot of misinformation.
I don't think there's any misinformation, I didn't get called on that one. But we certainly invited people to ask questions, and we invited them to come and view the current structure. The result of which was many people left because they couldn't stand the atmosphere, but in fact, the vote was in favor of doing it.
On the
We-
first round, not the second.
Second round was only a vote to undo the first one, and by the law of the state of Vermont, there was not sufficient interest in overdoing it to pass.
So you think the 84 people that voted against it in this town aren't worthy of reconsidering?
No,
We didn't say that at all.
you said that. You can't put us all together as some the same thoughts for one. I'm taking a little,
Really? 'Cause you're
I'm
the
taking
select
offense
board.
to that. That, for one thing, Paul's trying to explain something to you and you keep interrupting him. You know, if you ask a question, please let him answer. I mean, I understand the bond vote, and a bond attorney was contacted. And does the public know how that works?
That was my concern, that information that it had to be 2/3, I don't think was made public when we talked about
That
that.
was
because
kept
I
under
certainly-
wraps, very
don't-
That
tight.
wasn't the responsibility
I
of
don't
the
think
select
that-
board.
I don't-
Oh, really?
I believe
To
this.
inform the public.
I believe, I could be wrong, I believe that the onus for understanding the procedures falls on the people who are forcing the procedure.
That's correct.
So you should have then been able to contact whoever you needed to, including the state of Vermont and all the statutes that are written and published, to find out how to do the task. If that wasn't accomplished, you cannot blame us for not doing your job.
I'm not blaming you. I'm asking you why, as a select board, you feel that you should move forward with this, knowing what you know for facts.
Okay, that
Which is
question,
that 84 people voted against it, 74 voted for it.
the answer to the question, again, asked and answered, we believe we have the mandate from the citizens of Jamaica to go forward with a structure that we desperately need. We feel we desperately need.
Who's the we?
The select board feel that we need that structure. Would we agree with my statement
I would
Yes.
agree.
as a select board?
We need a new garage.
Yeah, we do need a new garage.
sometime.
I think that everybody agrees we need a new garage. And I think the point that Julie was making was not that we don't need a new garage. And I understand her anger, I share it. It's not a legal situation at this point. You're right. You've got the laws on your side. It's a kind of, I don't want to use the word moral, but there's a certain moral impetus against this garage because a certain number of the people in this town feel that it's being rushed. If we waited 40 years, we felt that it could wait 41. We have a lot of questions that won't be answered, and a garage will be built when a less expensive garage might be considered, when a better piece of real estate might come along, and we feel, and I didn't have this discussion with Julie, but I've had this discussion with a number of people, including professionals, who feel that there's this impetus to do this before we know too much.
That's
I'm
not
sorry.
the case.
Well, you
That's
always
your perception of
you,
it. That's your
you, al-
perception.
you always come to that conclusion. But that's an antagonistic conclusion that you're coming to. We do feel.
You do.
Yes, not only me.
5 of you. 4 of you.
That's all you see. Well, there's only 5 of you.
Let's say 84.
Whatever.
number.
There's a number of people.
84.
Right, 106 actually at the original vote. 106 people.
After the information meetings at our committee, it dropped to 84.
It dropped because people lost interest, and that's the fault of the town. But there's a kind of moral imperative here to consider these feelings. And there seems to be this mad rush to completing this before it's fully explored. And that, I think, is what's causing the anger. I don't think anybody I've spoken to says we don't need a garage, but a lot of people have spoken about concerns about how, what, and why. And you don't seem to feel that moral imperative, excuse me, to consider that. And that's what we're concerned
I
about.
think part of the reason we set up that garage committee was to be able to work together with the public, so that we could come up with
Well, that
a series
garage
of
committee, that's
discussions
kind of a
that-
weak garage committee. I mean, you have the
Excuse me?
majority.
I'm
I
sorry.
didn't hear what you said.
I said it's a weak committee. You guys have the majority, and I don't understand why you want to take that position. I don't understand, and this is my question over and over again. I don't understand why you just don't want to say, wait, there's a lot of concern here. Let's go slow. Let's see what we can do to improve this. We don't see that.
Is that a question? Let me answer it then.
Okay.
The reason why we're going forward, it is at least 2 decades overdue.
So what's
We have-
another year?
It's 2 decades overdue. We have our employees working in a really bad environment. It only gets more expensive the longer we wait. We're already a year longer than we'd hoped. We'd hoped to do it this summer. The committee was put together to give, did you volunteer for the committee?
I
don't
did
recall.
volunteer.
We could only take so many people on the committee.
Oh, I'm sure you didn't want me on the committee.
I don't know. The people who were on the committee were people who were opposed to it when we put the committee together.
Some of the people who are on the committee are still opposed to it.
That's fine. It's a committee.
Right.
We got the information. Everything we know is out in public. We
But-
gave it a very serious attempt to get all the information to everybody that we could. We still have the majority of the individuals in the town of Jamaica believe that the bond is the way to go.
Spiritually speaking, if you sat down with every resident of the town of Jamaica, you would not have a majority. You believe you would, I believe you wouldn't. And that's a point that
That's why
we
you
can't
have
prove.
votes.
We can't prove it. Yes, I
That's
understand.
why you have
I
votes.
understand that. And the lack of interest that the town showed is appalling. And the town has showed this lack of interest before. Maybe this is true of any town. But if you sat down with every member of this town, which I know is not feasible, and asked their opinion, you would not get the same result.
We don't know what we would get, and you
That's
and I
right.
don't know that.
You
So
don't
let's drop that and move on to something we can actually work with. You and I are never going to agree on a fantasy of talking to everybody. What we have
We
is
do
a
agree
vote.
on that, it's a fantasy.
We do. We have a vote. We voted, we followed the law, and we've done everything we could to make sure that
You
information
know,
was
I made a
available.
point that everybody laughed at last time, so I won't make it again. But following the law isn't always the right course of action. Sometimes there's a spiritual, a moral imperative, and you don't feel that. or you apparently don't feel that, I shouldn't say you don't, you apparently don't feel that there is so much concern, whether it's a majority or not, there is so much concern that certain steps haven't been taken and that more investigation could be done. I have a lot of questions, unprofessional questions about why certain things were chosen for this. Those questions aren't really answered. So if you feel like going ahead because it'll be cheaper this year, it will be terrible if it fails. It will be a lot more expensive if it fails. And there are several points in this that will fail or can fail.
Perhaps. Did
Perhaps.
you bring those questions to the
I
committee?
have.
And you did not like the answer?
I didn't like the answer.
Okay, so not liking the answer doesn't mean there was no answer. It's just you didn't like the answer.
I didn't like the answer because it's not timely.
There were answers though that weren't true answers, Paul. and
If you
that's-
have something that wasn't true that our committee did, please submit it in writing, and I will make sure. that
Lexa
never
pulled
happens
up
again.
heating costs for Winhall and said their heating season is over and that their numbers were,
This
In
is what
fact-
I talked,
you just,
I
the
did not
informational
lie.
meeting.
Whoa,
I
time out.
did not lie.
Lexa, wait, listen.
No, I
Let's-
did not lie. I've got the
She
figures.
said exactly this. As of this date.
And
As of
the
that
question
date.
was, how much annual is this building gonna cost to
She
heat?
said as of the date she made this statement. The season, the entire, the year isn't over yet. They can't imagine what it's gonna be for the next couple of months. She gave the information that she was given. That's exactly what
Which
she said.
didn't answer the question. So there are
Because that's an
questions that are
answer
still
we-
unanswered.
All right.
Because we don't have that answer, and you should know that if you're so goddamn smart.
This is going, over, yes, sir.
Awesome.
Would you like to add something?
I would, thank you very
Please
much.
do.
Joel Katz.
Hi, Joel, all right.
That's professionalism at its best, right there.
It sure is, but you know what?
We are
Can
going
stop
to,
this for a second, because
No, we can't.
let's just,
we've got to
this,
get her out of here.
let's just move on
You too.
as best we can, please.
You're not liking people in town doesn't give you the right to do
Well,
it.
you know what? You people have come here to every meeting, have been so rude to all of us. It hasn't been funny.
We have
And we
been
can just
disagreeing
take
with
so
you.
much of it, you know? We are doing the best
Rude by asking questions.
we have answered your questions, we have tried everything
You don't even know,
possible.
you don't even know what the insurance is gonna be on this building, Lexa. Your comment was,
Because-
you called the insurance company the day of the
Because
meeting and they didn't
don't-
return your call that
because-
day.
No, that wasn't it. That was the flood.
That was exactly what you
flood
said.
insurance.
Ladies and gentlemen, as the chair, I'm gonna call a 10-minute recess. This committee is adjourned for 10 minutes. We'll meet again at 7:30. It's 7:30. I'd like to reconvene the select board meeting for May the 23rd. As we left, you had your hand up for something to say.
Yeah, I have several comments on the process of developing a new garage. The process that I've observed going, and then what's going to happen going forward. So to start with, I disagree with you when you say that it's up to those people who are opposed to the bond. I wouldn't say opposed to the garage, opposed to the bond issue, that they have to find out the legalities of how the vote works. I think that should have been part of the public announcement for the vote. And I attended, that's number one. So, you know, I don't think that, I mean, you guys are our elected officials and you have to represent both sides of the issue when it comes to presenting it to the town. And I don't think that's happened. Number two, I've attended several of these garage committee meetings, and I have listened to people in the audience make suggestions. All those suggestions were presented in a fashion that would perhaps improve the design. But none of those suggestions came to any fore. All those suggestions were presented, and the committee turned it around and said, we don't want to do that, we already have a plan, basically, okay? They did not want any additional input. So that concerns me in terms of where we go now. Given that you guys didn't present the vote in a proper fashion and didn't present the vote and say to the town, you've got to have 100 votes in a negative format in order for us to reconsider this. What are we doing now? What's going to happen to the committee? You're going to go forward and get the money. I'd like to know what the process is from this day forward.
In fact, Lou is going to be making a presentation. It's further down. We move things around. He's going to be talking specifically about that. Having said that, could you please address just his question about their suggestions not resonating with the committee?
Okay, the one suggestion that I recall you making was to try to put a wall and divide the garage into two sections, one heated and one unheated.
No, I didn't say that. I said, in addition to that, I said 2 zones for the 2 different parts of the garage.
Okay.
In that case, we should be fine, because are not you doing a 2-zone heating?
Well, the second zone is for the office space.
Right.
He's
That's
talking
the
about
zone.
dividing the 6 bays into 2 sections. And I
Is
said,
that what you're suggesting?
That was one of my suggestions. I
I
also asked about insurance.
well, can I answer, finish answering
Sure.
the question?
Yeah.
And I said to you at the time, I said, we don't have enough time to consider that, but I said I could be talked into that, based on some research we would have to do regarding the efficiency of the heat in that situation. So it wasn't that we couldn't do it, it was what we couldn't do it at the time because we were getting ready for the information meeting. I'm trying to recall some of the other suggestions. Joel, you made a suggestion. What was your suggestion?
I don't remember.
I'm trying to.
It was for property and.
Oh, property.
So my suggestion about the wall was actually a concept that I had in the back of my head of 2 different zones. One zone for the guys to work on the equipment at a reasonable temperature. The other zone to keep the other equipment from not freezing. Okay? Now, there are advantages to that in that when you open up the bay door on one side, you're not taking all the heat out of the entire garage, you're only taking it out of half the garage. The second part of the question is, I asked if there could be an analysis of what the variables in the heat would cost over, let's say, a 10-year period, which probably would present itself with a savings of enough money to build that wall, and the return on investment would be 0.
Yeah, and I said we need to look into that, and I said we couldn't do it in time for the information. And I also have said many, many times that this committee is not over. Their purpose was not to present to the informational meeting. Their purpose is to work with us during the course of this whole design process to.
Well, why have a committee meeting before the vote and have people come in and make some suggestions, and then all those suggestions got a negative answer from the committee?
I'm sorry, I wasn't at the committee, but he just gave you a pretty positive answer when he said that it can be committed.
That's not what I got at the committee meeting.
When he-
Actually, I think his response just now was
Wait,
he could be convinced.
wait.
This is not a Lou barn, this is a
Time out.
town barn.
I know. Lou just said that the timing was difficult, but that he could be convinced, and in fact, we talked about the idea of doing it. That's gonna be up to the contractor, up to the architect. There's a lot of factors that have to come in that we don't know about. That's why we hired the pros. But I heard from Lou, it sounded like he accepted that as a possibility. That it didn't get.
That's today.
No, I've said that 3 or 4 times. I said it at the informational meeting. I said it at the last committee meeting that we discussed it. And when I say I'm convinced, because I can't speak for the rest of the committee, I can only speak for myself. Hence the reason why I said I could be convinced.
Okay, so that is on the table. And as this committee develops more specifics, and Lou's gonna be talking a little bit later on about where we are at this point, that's one of the things that could be on the table. Nobody's ruling that out. If it's an idea that sounds like it makes sense, you've got some thoughts behind it, maybe that makes sense. We're not ruling it out. We haven't got a drop-dead final project here. We're in the process of it. We're trying to make this work, and we're listening as best we can. All we can do is give that information to the pros, and they can tell us whether it's a good idea or not.
Did you you had two things you wanted to talk about. Did you talk about both of them?
I did.
Okay.
So Paul, at your last informational meeting, which was not recorded,
I'm sorry, let's stop for a second. It was recorded, we had it.
Okay, was not on video, excuse me.
Okay, it wasn't on video, correct.
So, the general public would have to read the entire set of notes, should they all be there.
Yeah, they
But-
aren't all there. I didn't bring this up, but there was a number of things left out. For example, Vance, Hafford, and I can't remember. Hosford talked quite a bit about holding, maybe working through some things, and that never made the.
Then I would ask why you didn't
Yeah.
tell us that and I asked for changes and corrections and deletions.
I didn't want to make a big deal out of it.
Well, let's not make a big deal out of it now. Go ahead.
Well, so the simple question was asked, and I don't think the general public knows this. I know they don't know this, because many people don't know this. Were any other sites even considered or looked at? The answer at that meeting was no,
Before,
not one.
Oh, the answer was that
there's no place that's reasonable. Now,
That's
before the
accurate.
committee, before the committee was formed, back in 2014, Lexa and I and the other members of this group talked about lots of different choices. We couldn't come up with one. The closest we had was a property that was too expensive for us. There weren't any options. The property that you are trying to sell is not an option.
Why not?
number one, it's way too small, and number two,
How so?
it's on the wrong side of town such that if
The wrong
we
side of
want
town. Now
something-
you gotta write the wrong
Please,
side of
We
town.
want something in the middle of the town, accessible to all parts of the town.
Because a half a mile will make a big difference.
Loophole.
I think
What I'll ask you to do is
half a mile.
put your proposal in writing to the committee.
What does
We-
it matter?
What doesn't matter is repeating it over and over again. We are not interested in that property. You
You're
must
not
find
interested
another
in
buyer.
looking at any other property.
I did not say that. All right, any other new ideas?
Yeah, no, this is an interesting point. There is hesitation about the quality of the location.
There is?
Okay.
We don't have
Wait,
choices.
wait for it.
Mhm.
Wait for it.
I'll take a pause here.
There's hesitation about the location as it stands. You're not considering any new property. If somebody comes up with the idea of saying, oh, wait a second, there is a piece of property and it may be even reasonable, but it's not in the budget because the budget doesn't consider buying a new piece of property for the $750,000 that's already been passed.
If someone comes up with an idea, present it to the committee. If it passes all the other musters, we'll discuss it. But in 2 years, we're looking every place, and Lexa drives she's around this place forever. I don't know the town as well as other people do. Nobody's come up with anything. If you have a suggestion, please give it to us, give it to the committee, we'll consider it. But
I made a
this horse has
suggestion, Paul.
This horse has been beaten to death.
Paul.
That topic.
No, I made a suggestion to put it out to the general public and ask if anybody wanted to donate land. That was never done.
Yes, it was. I spoke the words. If someone's interested in donating
You
land,
put that out to the public?
I spoke the words on camera. If someone's interested in donating property, please contact me. No response. Let us move
Gee,
on
I
to
don't know why
another
they
topic.
wouldn't respond.
Let us move on to another topic. Any other? Okay. The next thing we have.
Yeah, I do want to say something. I know that it's going to get me in trouble with you, Paul, but I have to say it. You talk about the select board being aware of all of the things that have gone on in the last 2 years. I have been left out. I did not know until December that we had even gone for a bond. It was only when the announcement came at the end of December that we were going to have some meetings and the bond issue would be dealt with in January. And you talk about how the select board has been aware of all of this for 2 years. That's not true. I have not known that all of this work has been done. So I feel like I'm getting dragged in on something, and I want to say very clearly, I have not been a part of this. Why, I don't know. Either I have too much power on this group, which I don't believe, or I have none at all, which I do believe. Because to me, the group has been a threesome, and maybe Andy is a part of that, but certainly Judy Flower has not been. What was that?
That would be a foursome.
Yes, it would be a foursome.
I'm not part of anything that you're not part of.
Okay, so.
Let me mention about the bond.
Okay.
Nobody had anything to do with the bond until about 2 weeks before that meeting. That was when I approached the bond council, so there was no discussion about the bond at all.
Did you talk with anybody else on the
At
group?
the time Lexa was chair, I said, Lexa, I'm familiar with the bond process from my work at Wyndham Solid Waste, would you like me to look into that? And she said, yes, that's all that
Okay,
happened.
well, I didn't know that.
That was the end of the conversation? I
That's-
doubt it.
That was
All right,
that
so,
conversation.
Can I just say one thing? When did Felix's property go for sale? When it was, that property right up there. I think I was in my first year on the board. And we
2012.
talked about, that would make a nice place for the town garage. Then it was some cash deal, and
It's actually
then,
been for sale twice. just for the record.
then the next time it went up for sale, it wasn't 90 grand or anything anymore. It was like way more than we could,
It was
Fathom,
about 300,000, if I recall.
I don't know if it was that
You
much,
said
but.
200,000.
But no, remember, Julie, it was really cheap at first.
It
It
was
was a cash
it was a
deal.
foreclosure, it was a
And
bank
then
loan.
we tossed around way back then that, and then, my
I was-
recollection was when we talked about it, a little time went by and then that, all of a sudden it was a lot more expensive.
Andy, I was not on the board at that time.
I think I was in my first year then.
Yeah. Probably.
So I'm just saying that back then, we thought that up there would be a nice place for it, which it would have been, but.
I wrote
It
to,
may
I thought about
it
it.
may
I wrote
end
to
up
her
being
2 weeks
cheaper
ago.
if this piece of property fails.
Joel,
What?
I wrote to Debbie
Yeah.
2 weeks ago and told her to contact us, and we haven't heard from her yet.
Well, personally, I don't think that property is the ideal property, because there are seven other properties on this road that are tied into water lines, and you can't dig up there in certain spots.
Well, I'm just saying. that
No,
we-
that's not the ideal
And
spot.
as we pursued all of them, none of them were the ideal properties.
But you
None of
did
them
pursue
met what
that.
we needed.
Could you itemize the ones that you pursued? Would you do that for
Sure,
them
sure.
and for us?
Right, I'll get back to you on that one.
Okay.
Moving on, anything else on this topic? This topic has been, I really think, representative of the classic dead horse that we've been beating. Let's move
I
on.
don't think
It's
so.
not a dead horse.
No, it isn't.
I would like to go back to what, the agenda, which is number 5. and-
I want to disagree with what you just said.
Thank you.
This is not a dead horse.
So noted.
This is important.
Moving on to number 5.
Make
we
sure
have-
that gets in the minutes, please.
Moving on to number 5, we have discussion about the RFP. We have, as you all know, those of you who read minutes and from the meetings, that we have been awarded a grant to replace the bridge on Castle Road. That is moving forward.
Yeah, I think Terry put together a RFP that we would like to send out. For those of you who may or may not know, Castle Hill Road Bridge, it's a very short bridge, it's about maybe 15 or 16 feet, and it's got cracks in it, it's got no abutment really, it's in very bad shape and very close to failure. We don't want to fail, we would like to replace it as soon as possible. We did get a grant from V-Trans. We actually weren't ready. The way V-Trans District 2 works is that grants are awarded generally on maybe an every 5-year basis, because it's supposed to be shared evenly based on the number of miles you have in your town. This particular one was given to us much earlier than it probably should have, because they realized the emergency nature of it. We're putting out the RFP. The biggest challenge we have is what to do with traffic during the course of that building time, because that's the only route to the town garage. It's the only route to
Transfer station.
transfer station, and it's the only route for the residents who live on Castle Hill Road.
It's probably one of the primary bridges that we have in this whole town.
Probably the one
Other
that's
than
used the
Route
most.
30.
You can't sneak around the back of the firehouse.
Well, that's what we're gonna be discussing with the owner of that property back there. We're actually, Paul and I are meeting with that couple tomorrow night, and we're gonna explore a couple of different possibilities. We think the time it would take would be about 2 weeks during the time when it would be closed, while we're putting in the new, you have to put the abutments in, and it's not really an abutment, it's a three or four sided box culvert, depending upon what the designs are. We're looking at a design build, so we can make it faster. Generally, design builds take a lot less time. You don't have to spend a month or two of an engineer doing his work and putting that out to an RFP, so we'd like to put it out as a design build. We're hoping that we can go into construction this year. A lot of that will be based on, number one, how quickly, once the bid is awarded, how quickly that piece of concrete can be cast. That's generally the biggest issue regarding culverts, is how quickly the concrete can be cast.
I have a question around the transfer station. With the compactors and the trucks coming and picking up all of the different, will that work going around that route? Because
We're actually looking into a situation similar to what we did with after post-Irene, which is we have a dumpster someplace in town where people don't have to go to the transfer station. And the reason for that is that this was actually suggested by one of the owners, and the reason they suggested it was because they wanted to keep the traffic through their property at a very minimum.
Yeah, because that would be a major problem, but what would that do to other things like the recycling would be a part of that.
Right,
thing.
recycling wood.
But what about refrigeration and, deconstruction stuff and metal and the electronics? What will happen with that?
I don't know, we have to explore that. I would think that we would probably not, either we wouldn't offer those capabilities, or we have to,
For that time frame that it's being built?
yeah, either that, or we might try to do something where we could do electronics, for example, here, and then just have our guys transport them up, or something like that.
When he and I,
So we'll work together.
Yeah, we'll have to work
on that.
together.
Yeah.
when Lou and I discussed this, the concern was that the inconvenience and hazard of not having the road going up to the other houses, up to the other homes, for emergency personnel stuff, that there's gonna be an inconvenience factor. And the inconvenience of taking your recyclables and your garbage to another location for a couple of weeks pales compared to the other issues. And so we've been talking about, again, looking around, finding a place where we can do that and setting it up. There will be a little bit inconvenience, but it beats the heck out of the bridge failing, and then there's gonna be a lot of inconvenience.
Well, I think I need to be a part of this conversation,
Sure.
not just between the two of you,
The
okay?
first thing we need to do, though, is to discuss it with the homeowners and see what
Yeah.
they're interested and willing to do.
Do you want me with them tomorrow night about that, or what?
I don't know, I think it's premature for that,
Okay.
but,
We'll bring you in when we get to the point of how best to manage the town transfer station.
Well, I wonder what the weight load of the existing bridge is, and are you going to upgrade the weight load considering that the town garage is going to have new equipment? And
Yeah. I'm not sure, I can't tell you at all what the weight load is
Well,
now.
because it's a concrete, it's not restricted the way it would be if it had a timber frame and some of the other things that restrict the weight limit. Because it's a concrete solid, the weight's pretty significant.
There's no weight limit at all?
To the best of my reading of the weight limits I'm sure there is, engineering wise, but the ones that they're referring to have to do with timber deck bridges and stressors.
Right, this will not
This is
be,
just a-
this will not be a bridge, this will be a culvert.
It's gonna be a big
It's
culvert.
gonna be a box culvert.
Is it gonna straighten the entrance to Route 30?
We're gonna discuss that we're gonna discuss that as well with the V-Trans people. We've been talking about that as well. So.
Yeah,
That has
Keith-
come up.
Keith talked about,
Keith
being able
asked
to
me
make
to
that
look into
right-hand
that.
turn.
What is the cost on this?
Good
What
question.
was the grant and what's it
Absolutely.
costing the taxpayers?
The grant is, 80%, it's an 80-20, 80% V-Trans, 20% town. If it's $200,000 or less, V-Trans will kick in $175,000. If it's more than $200,000, then we have to kick in whatever is beyond $200,000 ourselves.
What do you anticipate the cost being?
We don't, because
Yes, you got it.
that's why we have the RFP. Old Cheney Bridge was around the $200,000. The Old Cheney Road culvert was about that size. It's similar in size. Do you remember what the Old Cheney culvert cost? I think it was about the $200,000 range.
Those kinds of numbers are gonna come forth as we do the RFP. We're sending out.
Right, I understand, but like you said, you did Cheney Road, so you know, you have a general idea.
General idea.
Right.
How bad is that? Is it gonna last into the winter? Are you talking about next year doing it?
Well, we have no clue when it's gonna fail. If you go and take a look at it, it's all cracked. And it's got no wing walls. We're also looking, talking to the A&R gentleman who's in charge of rivers to see whether we can straighten it out a little bit to take the curve away. It's got a bend in the brook. So there are a lot of other things we have to,
There's a lot of work yet to be done.
get to be
Do
done.
we have to do anything with stream
That's why we need to
questions?
talk to Todd,
Yeah,
is the stream alterations.
yeah, because that will be a major,
So are you prepared at this time to make a motion that we authorize Terry to submit the RFP, publish the RFP?
Yes, I would like to make that motion.
I'll second it.
All in favor, well, discussions? All in favor of asking the treasurer to publish the RFP for the Castle Road Bridge replacement, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Hearing none, that passes. Thank you, sir.
So, Paul, you jumped ahead. There was a couple things I wanted to bring up for public concern, just questions that I had. So can we go back to that?
If it doesn't pertain to rehashing things you've already hashed.
So first of all, no, it doesn't, but even if it did, I don't think it should matter. It's a public concern, but you jumped ahead. So, that being said, Paul or Lou or whoever was part of the sidewalk thing, is there something being done with the sidewalk that is pushing up like this down by Andy Avery's house?
Yeah,
We've been
definitely
looking
have
at
to
that
look into
for years
We
and
have-
years,
We
yeah.
were hoping that during the winter time, it was subsided. It appears to be a heat thing. Whenever it gets warm and hot, it goes up. Whenever it
buckles.
gets cold, it goes back down. So we do have to do something about it.
One of the options when we first started looking at it, well, not the first, but when we started looking at it, the surgery needed to bring it down so that it's flush in the summertime would give us a pretty good sized gap in the wintertime, because as it's coming up. So if you cut these pieces off, then you're gonna have a gap in the winter. To go underneath it to find out what, if it's a root or some other structure that's causing that, would also involve surgery to the yard.
What's the liability to having it the way it is? What's the liability to town if somebody trips up? I have some experience with that.
No, I don't have the answer. to that.
You would lose.
Yeah.
It's a lawsuit waiting to happen.
As I said, we will look into that.
The other question, the second part to that was, this was also a grant, correct, to put these in?
Mhm.
And I believe as a part of that grant, there were stipulations on maintenance of those.
That's
Correct.
correct. And we will have to.
What is the length of time on those stipulations?
I
Forever?
don't
Do you
think
know?
there is no, I don't know.
It's-
I did talk to, V-Trans about that topic, and this goes way back, this is like last year when we were talking about the change of the thing. And they didn't have any real good ideas about it either. And they didn't sound like they were particularly, I asked specifically about, how long do we get some kind of a warranty for a sidewalk, and they said, no. So, it's not as, we thought we could fix it quickly, and it just didn't work out that way, we did everything else. But as far as the liability, if somebody trips on it, I don't have the answer to that.
And obviously our insurance would cover that.
Perhaps.
No, but it would be we would lose any, if it got brought to court, we would lose.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Believe me, you will, because I've been there.
And I have as well.
Because of your
I'm
property?
suggesting.
Because of your property
Yeah.
here?
No.
No, not you.
So what we don't know for sure is, we don't know for sure what court would do. It's certainly worth looking into. We can talk to the LTC about the liability aspect to see if there's something to take into consideration. and visited again. We just visited from a can we fix it perspective the last time. And
And,
then it went down, by the time we got to the fact that we couldn't fix it, it went back down to normal.
and we had a prior conversation at another meeting that the situation out on West Jamaica Road with the hill sliding into the road was being discussed, addressed, neighbors were being talked to.
Yes,
Luckily, we haven't had a whole lot of rain this season,
yes.
but that hill still looks
It doesn't
pretty
look good.
sketchy.
Yeah. The last I heard was the conversation I had with the property owner, that she was going to contact, someone to clear the trees. I gave her some names, that's all I could do, I can't recommend this.
Right, but what about what's coming into the road? Isn't that our responsibility or the town?
Well, part of the problem is when it gets to the road, it's our responsibility. Before it gets to the road, it's private property.
Right.
And so until it gets there, we really don't have anything we can do to it. As soon as it gets to it, then we, kind of push it out of the way. But she understands that the reason it's coming down is because the trees are causing that weight thing. She understands that, she doesn't want to lose her property. I have not called her back to see who she contacted. I don't know exactly where she is on that one.
Well, there's a retaining wall that can't be seen anymore.
Oh, we know it well, yes. That was expensive to put in. Exactly. And FEMA would not allow us to do anything more than that. In fact, they didn't allow us to do that. We had to spend money from elsewhere to get that done.
What about the town doing something now? The town doing it?
The town's doing,
Cleaning it out. There's no way for the water to run down that side of the road.
the guys are maintaining the road as best they can. Every time the mud slides into it, they clear it out and they're trenching it and trying to keep things going. But it's private property.
Right.
And there's this, until it hits our right of way,
It's there.
we can't, and it's right away, we move it around, we dig ditches, we move the dirt out of the way. He tells me it's like plowing soup after a big rain. And they do what they can to keep it going. But unless the property owner does something to that cliff, it's gonna keep coming down. Everybody knows that. It's just, we just don't have, we don't have the right to tell her what to do. We can only.
No, we have the right to clear out that side.
As soon as it comes down, we clear it out.
No, you don't.
What do you mean we don't? It just says
It's full right now, Paul. It's full right now. There's no ditch on
The
that
road?
left-hand side of the road.
the road or the,
The ditch.
okay, well, now.
Which is where the water should be going. Just saying.
I'm not gonna speak on their schedule, whether they got, I know they were doing a lot of work on another set of roads today. I don't know, I can't speak to that. I will talk to them tomorrow, or you can talk to
Well,
them.
all right, and if you continue to have a concern, we mentioned that we're gonna have Keith in here at the first
Every year.
meeting,
Each month.
every month, so he'll be
Yeah.
here at the next meeting.
So if that's, so bring it up, yeah. But do understand that whatever hits the road, they clear it out. So you're talking about this right away where the ditch is you're talking about right now.
You're saying it's being cleared out, but it's not.
I'm saying the road's being cleared out, I'm not speaking to digging on the
The
ditch.
ditch, right.
We'll look into that, okay. Agenda number 6. Had a conversation with the principal, Laura Hazard. As it happens, neither the school nor the town budgeted for mowing of the school. And so there was a question about whether or not the town was going to pay for the school's mowing, or the school was going to pay for the school's mowing. And I told her that I would bring it to the select board for discussion.
Did you ever find out what happened in past
Yeah,
years?
that's what I was gonna ask.
Apparently, we were paying for it. And then we took it out of the budget because it wasn't in our budget issue, and they hadn't been paying for it. Historically, part of the issue was everything the school spends on itself, dollar for dollar, is gonna be sent to Montpelier, under the, whatever the act it is that makes us send money someplace. And so that was the question that we had last time we talked about this, was whether this was gonna be a problem. Her financial people tell her that it's so minuscule compared to the overall $1 million+ budget, that it's not gonna make any difference whether they pay it or we pay it. So that particular question isn't germane anymore, so we're just looking at whether we wanna pay for it, or have the school pay for it.
But we've traditionally done it in the past,
We had been doing it because we didn't want them to send equivalent
up
money
until when we stopped doing it
last year, right?
last year.
This budget, when we did this budget this year, we didn't include it, and they had not been putting it in their budget. Terry says that money-wise, they had money in their budget, we have some money in our budget, so it's a moral issue.
It's a municipal property, correct?
It is municipal property, but the school has a completely independent budget.
But if it's a municipal property and the municipalities here are mowing the lawns, wouldn't that mean they should mow that lawn?
Yeah, I'm not exactly sure how that defines out as municipal property. Does anybody have a thought on that? I mean, the school has its own insurance, is that not correct?
Yeah, I think it's kind of like when you have a tenant renting your home. Some of the things you deal with, some of the things the tenant deals with. And I don't have any problem with the town.
Yeah. Well, and I'm not to
Especially
dissuade
if
you
we've
from that
historically
position,
done it.
because that's okay with me. But I think that the tenant thing would be similar if we had a situation where we had a tenant that we're giving $1 million to every year to run their business. And then they came back and said, by the way, mow our yard for us, so. I mean, that's the other side of the point.
Is that why, I don't recall not putting, or even talking about that going into the budget.
Neither do I. Was there ever a line item?
Yeah, I don't remember that.
I have to go back and look at it, I can't recall. But
I
I talked to Laura, and she didn't have it in her budget either.
I move that we pay for the mowing of the lawn around the school.
The lawn in the grounds for the playground, the entire grounds?
Whatever has been done in the past.
And I'll second that, and then I'd like to amend the motion to use the same person we're using for our cemeteries. So that's my amendment, that we use the same person who's doing the cemeteries.
So would you suggest that the amendment would be that we expand the duties of the contract we have with the cemeteries to include the school?
That's what I would amend. That would be my amendment to Judy's motion.
Okay, so let's rephrase it for,
But if we need to second that amendment, yes.
I'll second it.
you're seconding his amendment to your motion. Fine. Let's rephrase it for Pam.
Okay. I move that we amend the motion to include, to add this to the contract for the cemetery, for the cemetery's mower.
Any other discussion?
Yes.
Okay.
How are they gonna know what to charge? That'd be part of their.
Well, would they
But
charge
they would
the
have to
other
lump it
moment?
in with
Well, we have
X
to,
amount of times, and does that have to go out for an RFP on just?
I think we can add that to the contract.
If I can throw something out here, I know, because of my conversations, they happen to contract one time with the same guy that's doing our cemeteries. So whatever she just paid to have it mowed, because they said we need to get it mowed right now, so she brought the same people in. So it should be pretty easy to have that added to there, don't you think? That whatever they paid this time?
All right, so the other thing is, we paid for it before except for,
Paragraph until this year.
Or this year.
well, there may be the question that how much we paid for the school tax, and now we're gonna pay for mowing the lawn, I don't.
You've been paying it though.
Yeah.
It just was in the
I'm gonna
budget this
stay
year.
out of that one.
So we have a motion on the table to expand the job description of the individual who has the contract for the cemeteries to include mowing Jamaica Village School grounds. And we had a second?
I think I seconded it, didn't I?
Any further discussion? Pam, did that make sense? Okay. All in favor, say aye.
I,
All opposed?
No,
Any further discussion? Hearing none, motion passes on a 2-1. I didn't hear anything on your left. Did you vote yes?
I didn't vote.
Okay, so it's 2-1 with one abstention. Okay. The next item,
I'm not sure.
was that passed?
I'm not sure that carries it. I think it has to be a,
What's an extension at your?
2-1 is,
Now, according to Robert's rules, that's true. However, according to state law, I think you have to have three people on the board have to approve
yeah.
a spending measure.
So pause, vote.
so the question then is, does that constitute a tie?
You have a motion on the floor, but there's no dollar value in it. I don't understand how you can approve the mowing without knowing how much it's gonna cost.
We're essentially approving the same budget dollar item from the previous year.
That's not in the motion.
I think it was discussed that we were gonna use whatever the figure was that Laura paid to have it mowed recently as the number. We don't know what that number is, but that's what we discussed.
I'll vote yes.
The question comes up if we need to amend the budget. I don't think we need to go that far, do
No.
we?
No,
No. So I now have 3 yeses and 1 A, that carries,
and it's about $800.
That's just the amendment.
is that
It's
what,
about $800 a year.
for the year?
Mm.
Okay, I had 3A, 1A. Motion passes. Thank you. Number 7.
We have the original motion to vote on. We just voted on the amendment.
Oh, jeez. Robert and I are just never gonna get along. But when you amended the motion, we're voting on your amended motion.
Right.
And your
Only
amended
the
motion-
amendment to the motion.
Right.
With the original motion has to be voted
Right.
on.
Please state your motion.
That the town pay for the mowing of the area around the school and that
The grounds.
the grounds, can you read that?
The original one was that we pay for the mowing of the grounds of the school.
Yeah, that's what the motion is. I
Which
move
has now
that.
been amended.
Right.
So, can you read back the amended motion?
Well, it
Yeah,
was
that's
never
actually-
really put together. So you move that we pay for the mowing of the grounds of the school, adding it to the contract with the cemetery mowing. Is that good?
That's correct.
So I move that.
Do I have a second?
It was already seconded.
I know, but she restated it.
No.
We don't care. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
I hear 3 to 1. That motion passes. Thank you very much. Now we move on to the next item. Good. We've been talking for some time about the fact that our excavator is rapidly going belly up. We've been discussing the purchase of a new excavator. And Lou, do you want to discuss that?
I've mentioned it many times. We have a equipment replacement program, and that program has certain pieces of equipment to be replaced at certain times. It's now time to replace the backhoe. Rather than replacing the backhoe with a backhoe, we already have a loader that will handle the loading part of the backhoe. We're talking about, instead of replacing the backhoe with a backhoe, we're talking about replacing it with a wheeled excavator. And the reason for that is because the backhoe, whenever you use it to do excavating kinds of activities, you have to lower the stabilizing arms, and you can only do a certain small area with a certain short reach, and then you have to lift up the stabilizing arms, get into a different chair, move the backhoe, and turn around and use the other chair.
A lot of process.
So instead, we're going to replace it with a 4-wheeled excavator. The excavator, being a wheeled vehicle, it doesn't do damage to the road, yet it can move up and down the roads a lot easier, and is much better for ditching than it is for than using the backhoe. And ditching is going to become a much bigger part of our road maintenance because of Act, I think it's 64, the act. But it's a new act regarding water quality. And what they're trying to do is to capture runoff and filter it properly before it gets into the stream. So ditching is going to be a much bigger part of our responsibility. So that's the reason for the 4-wheel excavator. We've looked into a number of different ones. It turns out there are only 2 that make it in the class that we want, the size that we want. One of them is a little bit bigger than the other. We thought that the Hyundai, which is a little bit cheaper, was not as big and heavy duty enough, so we decided to go with the Whacker. It's called a Whacker. That's the name of the company, I guess, or that's the product, whatever. So anyways, I think the total was $107,000. Approximately. It's got 2 different types of buckets. It's got a ditching bucket and it's got a digging bucket. It's got a number of different other features that we liked. If we do have some real heavy duty digging to do, it's got the ability to put stabilizing arms down. So if you have some real heavy duty, like if you want to remove a big tree stump or something like that.
Are they all, do you have to attach them in order to use them, or are they already there?
No, they can be moved around. One of the other features we wanted was to have a knuckle so that it can move around this way, not just this way. And the reason for that is if you're not in the right position, you can use that knuckle. You don't have to move the vehicle to get into the right position. The knuckle will do that for you. So that's the vehicle that we're recommending.
I have a question. Given the large expense of this piece of equipment, which I think is going to be a real asset to the town, are there any operator training programs that are going to be in place with this new purchase for our town?
Well,
To
I don't think
optimize
I don't
the
think,
ability that this machine,
I know that the state doesn't have any as part of their programs, but we can check into that. One of the things I should mention, by the way, is we've decided that we are going to rent this for a month. And that rental will be put towards the purchase if we decide to keep it. The reason we're going to rent it is because we want to see if it actually is going to do the job we want it to do.
It's a good idea.
We don't have any experience in that piece of equipment.
So the rental amount is,
Can be put towards the purchase.
the rental amount is what dollar amount
Oh, I think it's $2,900 for a month.
per month?
and the company that it's being purchased from, do they provide any support services for?
We'll have to ask them if there's
I
any
think
training.
that definitely needs to be
We
on the
can,
list.
that's a good
I
point.
would imagine that, a piece of their equipment, they would say, well, this is what you do.
Well, they certainly want it to be successful for that month, so we want to buy it.
That is true.
The 109 includes the 2 different buckets, or the
Well, it's
implements?
7 or so, yeah.
There
Include both
is-
buckets.
There is, when I read this over, there is mention of the warranty and the support.
Where's it being purchased? Or
The
rented from?
company is, it's Wacker Newsom is the company, is the manufacturer. And I believe, Anders, don't you have that, what's up there?
Ambrose,
Ambrose, is the company.
it's in New Hampshire.
New Hampshire, Mass, and Massachusetts.
Yeah. So I remember the question about warranty struck me as well, and I want to say it's like 2 years.
2-year warranty.
Yeah, and they are obviously going to support it with on-site training to make sure something knows how to run it before we take it, especially since it's a lease in the first 30 days.
Yeah, we're looking into, we've been looking into different ways of purchasing it. They have a 2 or 3, depending upon which one of their things you believe. 0 interest rate for 2 years or for 3 years. And the reason we're looking at that option is because we still have loaned to ourselves from our reserve funds, a lot of our reserve funds, to handle Irene. The Irene cleanup, we haven't been paid yet by FEMA. So this will give us an opportunity of not having to pay it out, the full $107,000 right off the top. We're gonna take advantage of the 0% financing.
Are there any Vermont companies that
No,
sell?
this is there's only a couple of companies in the whole area that sell this particular, this size wheeled excavator is not a very popular thing. I think Wardsboro has one,
What size is it?
15,000 pound,
I want to say
15,000 pounds.
Yeah. Part of the difficulty is most of the manufacturers make these really huge ones for state projects. So to have something our size is unusual. We've had a lot of trouble trying to find it.
Right, one of the other advantages of this particular one is it does go about 30 miles an hour on the road. A lot of them only go about 15. So this does go a little faster, so it can not slow up traffic too much.
And we can hit more roads in a day.
Well, that's
And yes, before you ask, the back of my mind, I think the very first project this thing attacks is WJR3.
That's great. I think that's ideal.
I can't speak for Keith, but I want to see that fixed.
Yeah.
That's
Well,
been
the
a
only-
sore spot for me for
The only
years.
thing that would preclude that is the fact that we asked for a grant, $20,000 grant from Vermont Vermont Better Back Roads.
Oh,
And that grant was gonna cover the rental. So if we get that grant, we'll have to do that first, because that will cover the rental.
This looks like a back road we'd like to see get better.
I mean,
So the term of the loan you were saying is a 2-year, 0%. Are you gonna continue with the extended period on that loan, or do you plan on paying it off?
you plan on paying it off. You commit to the term. You commit to the term when you purchase it.
One of the conversations, and we'd had this back and forth, and I wasn't sure if we had decided which way to go. The other one was 3 years for 0.9.
0.99%.
And Terry was kind of leaning in favor of that one, because for 1% of the loan, we get,
An extra year.
3 years. By the time, understand these are all moving pieces, so I'm going to show you what we're thinking about. We are working as fast as we can to make sure we get all the money from FEMA that we already spent. It's going to be a year or two before we can really say that we've got it all back. The idea is with 3 years at 0.9, at that point we should have the vast majority of the money that's owed to us by FEMA. So Terry's looking at all these moving pieces. We're trying to figure out exactly how best to manage what we have, what we, and Lou's been very good about explaining this, how much we've got in our reserve funds to use, and timing it around that. So there's a lot of these moving pieces, but I know that she was talking about that. Did you guys have a conversation?
Yeah, we talked about that. I didn't like the idea. It's gonna cost about $2,000 in interest to do that, and I didn't like the idea of spending $2,000 on that. I thought 2 years was enough, but if you read the literature, there's actually a 3-year option for small vehicles, so we're gonna look into that.
Okay.
But I don't know what your thoughts are as a group, whether you, if we wanted to go 3 years and we had to go with the 0.99, what do you feel about spending the
Won't we
approximate?
know in 2 years what we're gonna get back from FEMA by then, basically?
We've got a rough idea what is owed to us, but we
Can
still
you
have to.
tell me what that number is, approximately, what you're expecting from FEMA?
I want to say it's about $1.2 million. Does that sound right to you? Maybe.
What's what's left?
We had about $5 million worth of damage, approximately, and I think we've gotten back in the neighborhood of $3.5 million so far. So those are the approximate numbers, but please don't hold me to them. But those off the top of my head. So there's still some projects. I mean, I still have to submit the Goodyear, for one thing, hasn't been finished. Old Route 8 we have to do some things on. So there's little pockets. But give you that, Goodyear is a classic example. I can't even submit for the money until they finish paving. But we've already gotten some money for it, so it's hard to tell. I gotta tell you, Terry is saving our butts in Jamaica because of all the moving pieces that are taking place, with all the requirements that have to be done, the paperwork and all this stuff. It's mind-boggling what's taking place, and she's done a superb job of managing that.
This grant money you're talking about for the back roads, where is that?
It's along Pikes Falls Road, the area near the Stratton Town line,
And the grant is for 20,000, you said?
for ditching.
And what's it gonna cost us?
I think it's 80-20 match. So that would be 4,000 for us, 16,000 from Better Back Roads.
My question would be, if we go the 3-year, we would have more use of our money, correct?
Well, our payment would be less as well.
Yeah. Instead of spending it right off. So,
I think that's
Yes.
Terry's position as well, that we'd have
yeah,
a smaller payment, and then when it came due, we would have the money back from FEMA.
yeah.
So back to the piece of equipment, you said you visited with 2 dealers?
Keith has been in contact with 2 different.
Who's that?
I don't know. Keith has done the research on that.
And this was,
So, what is the reserve fund for equipment? How much is it?
Right now, we have very little, and the reason for that is we just purchased a $150,000 dump truck. So we
Okay,
have,
so,
the way we do it is every year in our budget, we allocate a certain amount of money towards equipment. In the 2016 budget, which is the budget we're working on now, we've allocated, I think, $75,000 towards equipment.
that goes into the reserve fund.
That is scheduled to go to the reserve fund, and we always make that vote in June based on what our finances are at the end of the year.
And beyond this piece of equipment, in the next 2 to 3 years, are you anticipating any additional equipment?
Yeah, that to me is a question.
We, next year, the 2017 budget, we have another $75,000, I think, allocated for equipment. That would pay for the additional 30,000. So after this piece of equipment is gone or has been purchased, we would have about 50,000 left in that reserve fund. And then we have another dump truck to purchase, I think, in about 2 years. That's our next piece of
I was thinking
equipment.
of
So we have a gap of 1 year without purchasing.
Correct.
So the choice is 3-year lease purchase
Right.
at 1%, or 2 years at 0%.
That's correct.
But you have to buy a dump truck within 2 years.
2 to 3 years, probably 3 years.
I got the impression you said 2 years.
Well, it's scheduled for 2 years, but I'm not sure we're gonna have enough money in 2 years to do it, so we may have to put that off for a year.
The cycle has it coming up in 17.
Well, I'm just trying to get it in my head about
Yeah.
the finances and the cycle of new equipment and how frequently that happens.
Yeah, we have I think it's on a 20 or 25-year cycle, because the reason for that is because one of the biggest items we have is the grader, and that has an expected life, I think, of 25 years. So we put everything on a 25-year cycle, and the dump trucks, for example, are to be replaced every 10 years. The backhoe, which is now going to be the excavator, is scheduled to be replaced every 20 years.
Are you keeping the backup?
We are going to keep it, but we're not too optimistic it's going to last very long.
They've replaced the hoses a couple of times just the last couple of months.
We kept, like, for example, when we replaced the 1 ton, we kept the old 1 ton, and that lasted us another 2 years or so, but now it's junk. So the question is, do you turn it in, as a trade and get what little you can for it, or do you try to keep it as long as you can?
Yeah. It's kind of like a car, same thing.
So do you need any action from the select board regarding the?
Yeah, I think we need to authorize Terry to put this RFP out. And I'd like to get your sense as to which financing option you would like.
I kind of lean into the 3-year. I think to pay $2,000 for the use of our money, and not deplete our money, would be the way that I would say to go.
Let me just read correctly, we're not talking about an RFP for this, we're talking about
Purchase, I'm sorry.
purchase, right? And anybody at this end would like to weigh in on this one?
I like the 0% financing.
What's that?
I like the 0%.
0% for 2 years versus 1% for 3?
And there's a possibility we can get 0% for 3 years, but we're going to look into that.
By just negotiating that?
Well, if you read, she sent us her financing possibilities, and it depends on how you read it. It says excavators, 3 years would be 0.99%. Then it says skid steers and small excavators.
I saw that.
So my understanding is that this is a small excavator and should qualify for 3 years at 0%. But we haven't got any answer back from the company.
And they have, in their literature, they talk about, they're very kind to municipalities, understanding the budget process that we have to work with. They're just used to working with really big stuff. And even though this is bigger than we have, it's small compared to what they're used to.
Andy, what's your thoughts on the term?
I'm a little confused about how soon you have to pay for it, so 2 years, it has to be paid in full?
If it was 0% financing for 2 years, you would take the $107,000 and divide it by 24 equal payments.
Okay.
And that, or actually, I think it's quarterly. We divide it into 12 equal, whatever.
Even at that 0, they give us options of monthly, quarterly, or yearly, 6 months. They do give us those kind of options, but.
One would hope some of that FEMA money would cover that within a year.
I am so pleased to hear you use the word hope and FEMA in the same sentence.
One would hope.
I guess, Terry's, I can't speak for Terry, but I think her position would be, we'd all hoped that we'd be further along at this point.
And Terry's position on the financing is what, or did she have one?
She likes the 3-year option.
Her thinking, as she explained it to me, was in 3 years, smaller payments, then we'll have, she and I are really confident we can get this FEMA stuff wrapped up.
In 3 years.
Yeah, of course, I said that 4 years ago, didn't I?
And the other thing is, there's a state payment coming at the end of all this, because if you recall, the state said that we didn't have to pay any more than 3% of our grand list.
That's another factor. Because of the way it's structured, the state we will only have to pay 3% based on a per capita, is it 3% per capita? It's got
I
something to
think
do
it
with
was 3% of your grand list.
3% of the grand list. So even though we might have otherwise been expected to spend more of the money from FEMA, because of the state law that was passed in the heat of FEMA, that's gonna be capped. So there's some money that we can't put our fingers on now, that by law, we should be getting back.
Right.
And it's got to do with per capita for the grand list.
Well, $2,000 is $2,000, if we're gonna have to give it up, I'd rather not.
Say it again.
I said 2,000 is 2,000, if we didn't have to give it up,
But
we have to keep it.
listen,
The 2-year financing.
He's saying it's about
Oh.
$2,000 of interest, he'd rather not pay the 2,000 interest if we don't have to. So, what about you, Paul, what are your thoughts?
I have been married to Terry for 5 years, and she seems, yes, she's not happy about it either. She has a really good head on how to manage this thing. And as she explained it to me, and you and I talked about this, I'm inclined to support Terry's position, go for 3 years at 1%, or 0.99%.
But in the meantime, we have to vote on whether we want to spend this money.
Okay. So, I don't vote, but you all do. So, to make it simple, let's just say we have 2 options, but let's go for the first option. All those of you in, I can't say this, so I would entertain a motion that sounds like this. All in favor of the 2-year 0% option? That's not a motion, is it?
All right,
I would entertain a motion.
Let's start with
Yeah.
this. I move that we purchase the Whacker product,
Yep, like
um, 4-wheeled excavator for approximately $107,000. What's the exact number, if you want to give me the exact number?
107,652. 107,652.
And we'll leave the financing out for the moment, just, I move that we purchase the vehicle.
I'll second
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
that. Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Hearing none, motion passes. So we agree to purchase it at this rate. You want to make a second motion?
Yeah, I'll make a second motion, I'll go with the 3%, I'll move that we finance it for 3 years, with the hope that we can get to 0% for the 3 years, but if not, 0.99% for 3 years.
I'll second it.
Any further discussion? Hearing none. All in favor of the 3-year 0.99% rate, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
No.
Have 1 no, 3 and 1, it passes. Thank you. Okay. Now, on the, I'm not sure, number 8 on the agenda was to discuss the next steps in the process of replacing the town garage. Lou had asked you to speak to that. Do you have anything left to say about that?
Yes, I do.
Okay.
Regarding the bond issue, we now have the authority to bond for $750,000. We don't have to bond it right away, we can wait another year. There are two opposing reasons why you would do one versus the other. When I talked to Bob Giroux, who is the municipal bond manager for the state of Vermont, and just to backfill you in, the town of Jamaica doesn't go out to the bond market. The state of Vermont goes out to the bond market on our behalf. And with Bob Giroux as the group, I guess there's a series of trustees that he has to meet with for this. He pointed out that interest rates are at their very lowest point. Actually, I looked at the yield curve. April, March was really the lowest point. If you recall, the Fed is talking about upping the interest rate in June. And in anticipation of that, if you look at the yield curve, the long-term points on the yield curve are going up already. So you can see that that's going to be true. So the Fed's been talking about raising interest rates for a long time. I think it's finally going to happen in June. It may or may not, but never mind. So it's a crapshoot. Bob's point is that you're not going to get money as cheap as this in the future. So his advice, he can't give advice. His point is that we may want to go out for the bond this year. The problem is that we don't know what the cost for sure is going to be of this particular vehicle or this particular building. So therefore, if we go out for a bond issue of $750,000, we actually have to borrow $750,000 because they will already have executed this bond for us. So the suggestion was made that we bond for something like $600,000 this year. And with the option of if we decide to bond again next year, we could bond the additional amount depending upon what we actually spent on the town garage. The advantage to that is we would borrow the $600,000 at the most advantageous interest rates. I did some calculations on my own and figured that if the Fed raised their rates once between the time when we would have taken the bond this year versus next year, we'd break even. Because the cost for interest for that 8 months is going to be about $15,000 or $16,000. We can invest that money in a CD. The state has to invest it for us. We can't invest it on our own. The state would be willing to invest that money in a CD, which may make 0.5%, so that would offset that cost a little bit. But if we did start the construction process in April, we would have to start paying some of those work orders. You know how they do it. They give you a bill every month. So we have to start paying those bills probably in the May time frame. We can get a loan. It's called an anticipation loan. So if we chose to wait till next year to go to the bond market, we can get an anticipation note, and those are drawdowns. They're similar to like a revolving. If you think of your mortgage, you can get a second mortgage a lot of times, which is a revolving account. And the interest rate for that is about 1.5% right now. So we could defer going to the bond market for a year, taking the risk, what's called interest rate risk. We would risk the interest rates going up. So the question is, which way do we want to go? We don't have to answer that question until June 13th. So my recommendation is that we ask Terry to apply for the bond for $750,000, and on June 13th, we would make the decision as to whether we wanted to go the full $750,000, the $600,000, or nothing. And my thinking is by then we may know what the Fed's going to do, and have a better feeling what the Fed's going to do. We can make a choice. If the Fed does raise interest rates in June, it'll be right at the wrong time for us because we'd be going out to the bond market in July. So it would already show the effects of that basis point raise.
So basically, we only have a little over, maybe not even quite 3 weeks in order to make our decision.
Correct. But I wanted to bring this up to you tonight so we can start thinking of it.
Yeah.
And then I wanted to run some more numbers. I thought I might meet with Steve Clark, who's done a lot of banking over the years, because I'm not an expert in banking. I thought the two of us could sit down, run different scenarios, and maybe propose different scenarios to you at the next meeting.
I'm wondering if we should even have a special meeting. Because the next meeting is when we would have to make the decision.
Right. Correct.
So, and I'd like to be able to think about it a little bit.
It's up to the rest of you.
Thoughts?
Whatever you feel is right.
Why would you sit and meet with somebody that is actively in the bonds now?
Pardon me?
Why would you sit down with somebody that's actively involved in,
We could look for somebody like that, but I don't know anybody like that.
call the attorney?
I know a lot about bonds because I worked in that. That was my business when I was working. So I know a lot about them, but I don't know everything about them. That's why I can run the numbers. I ran numbers on Excel to show to show me what different. It's hard to predict what the yield curve is going to do.
That's Mary's, she's got a chronic problem with her alarm system. I'm pretty sure.
What lane is that?
It's my sister's.
Fawn Ledge.
Is that what it was?
Fawn Ledge.
There it is. It's on, it's got on. All right, so I think that the information that's on the table is really helpful. Let's give us a couple of weeks, at least until next select board meeting, for us to review the issues and kind of gather some more information. And then we'll meet with it again next.
As I said, we may have to meet even a little earlier, so we have some, unless you just give us the information.
Well, I can send it to you.
Yeah.
It may be difficult to decipher.
Because it sounds like there are options here that we're
There
gonna
are,
have
there
to
are three options that I know of right now that we
Yeah.
can look at.
Yeah.
All right, so what we'll do then is we will grab the information, pull it together, and if it seems like it makes sense to have another select board meeting, we will warn the community about when we're gonna do that. All right?
Other things regarding the town garage, I haven't talked yet with the other members of the committee, but I'm gonna try to set up a committee meeting in the next couple of weeks.
Okay, all right, good, thank you. I'm going to adjust we're running quite long, so I'm going to change number 9, we're going to table that with the permission of the board. I'd like to table number 9 for 2 weeks. Move to the excess weight permits, we have a request from Catamount Forest Products. I would entertain a motion to allow it pending the usual restrictions.
So move that.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none. I'll instruct
That person.
whatever the hell it is you do. Commissioner to accomplish that. And any other business that comes before the board, I'm sort of slightly distracted because that is my sister's place. You know,
Do something about that.
I've got nothing.
Lex is making the calls.
Yeah, but I mean, do you need to do that?
Historically, I've been there 3 times. She has guests that come there
Okay.
and they cook.
Oh, okay.
Sometimes they don't cook well. So far, it's never been anything more than food being fired up. So, is there anything that you'd like to bring up from other business? Judy?
No, I really don't have anything.
Okay. Andy?
No.
Let me check Lex a little quick before you.
Yeah. I'd be worried too.
Okay, Alexa tells me she doesn't have anything additional. So, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
I am so moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? So we are adjourned at 40.